What is undeniable is that Ghana was transformed during the period of MPP's tenure from a low-income HIPC economy to a lower middle-income economy on the frontiers of emerging market status. In this regard, I am very amused when our political opponents on the NDC side try to argue that they would like to compare the first 3 years of the MPP with the first 3 years of the NDC. How can one suggest even such a comparison? By analogy, ladies and gentlemen, by analogy, if you hand over an inefficient Tico car to me, and I work hard, and by the end of the day, I hand over to you a very efficient Metro Mass vehicle. And now you take this Metro Mass vehicle and say you want to compare it with your inefficient Tico car. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Mr. Chairman, the NDC inherited a very different economy from the MPP. The raft of reforms, including the single-spine salary system that had been crafted, which we will implement fully, as designed, the inflation targeting and financial sector reforms, and all the raft of reforms we talked about, that moved this economy from lower middle incomes, from HIPC to lower middle income status. As I said, in comparison, what are really the new policy initiatives implemented by this government since 2009? Unfortunately, as I am just about to point out, the efficient mass transit vehicle we handed over is breaking down slowly. And the earlier we take it back, the better. Ladies and gentlemen, this government inherited oil, and at the same time, cocoa and gold prices have virtually doubled in the last 3 years. It has also borrowed so much, and I'll be talking about that very, very soon. It has also borrowed so much on our behalf, and in the process has more than doubled Ghana's external total public debt. I'll say more on this shortly. With this set of economic opportunities, Ghanaians, as a matter of right, should expect a much better Ghana. Mr. Chairman, the supposedly rosy picture painted by an oil-driven GDP growth rate in 2011 masks some very worrying underlying developments in the real sector of the economy. If you take a look at this graph, you'd see suddenly, after 2008, where we were at 8.4%, you see GDP growing to currently 14.4%. And they say, wow, what a great picture. What an unprecedented amount of growth. But as is with all data, it's good to dig a bit deeper to see what is in there. So we have been doing some digging, and the developments are very worrying. The performance of the agric sector, in particular, is very worrying. Ladies and gentlemen, you take a look at this graph, you would see that at the end of 2008, agricultural sector growth was 7.4%. At the end of last year, it had declined all the way to 0.8%. It's a major cause for concern. As you will see, when you look at the real GDP in agric, the next graph will tell you what is happening. Is this a better performance? Mr. Chairman, let me continue. We dig deeper in agric. Excluding cocoa, I want to check the food sector. When you look at crop production, excluding cocoa, you see what is happening. You've seen a major decline. When you go to, excluding cocoa, crop production has registered less than 2% growth in the last 2 years. Then you look at fisheries. What is happening? My mom, Gladys Asma, is here. Now, if you look at fisheries, the fisheries sector has gone down from 17.4% growth in 2008 and now is negative 8.7%. No wonder our fishermen are complaining. But there is hope for them. Nana Akufo-Addo is coming. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear from the data we've seen so far that, in fact, outside of the oil, the economy is not booming. The jobless growth we are seeing in Ghana under this government is therefore not a mystery. You cannot create jobs when critical sectors are significantly declining. That is just fairly straightforward. I now want to turn my attention to this concept of single-digit inflation. Mr. Chairman, all countries would prefer to have low and stable inflation in the context of economic growth and job creation. This is because inflation represents a fall in the value of money. It is a tax on the poor, and it makes it difficult for businesses to plan. Inflation results in an increase in interest rates as lenders seek to protect the value of their money, and also results in exchange rate depreciation. Under these circumstances, inflation tends to hamper sustained growth and job creation. It is for this reason that governments all over the world and economic managers set their eyes to reduce inflation to low single digits, because it would, amongst other things, reduce the cost of living, reduce interest rates, and stabilize exchange rates. Low and stable inflation is only meaningful if it can translate into these tangible benefits for our people. The key question on the minds of many Ghanaians is, do we really have single-digit inflation? While I do not want to argue or question the integrity of our hard-working officials at the Ghana Statistical Service, who do a good job under very difficult circumstances and should indeed be resourced and given more independence to do the work they do, I will like to state, and I will show, that the available evidence indicates that the statistically reported single-digit inflation is not consistent with economic fundamentals and developments in some of the key reforms. I repeat that the statistically reported single-digit inflation is not consistent with economic fundamentals and developments in some key economic indicators relating to the cost of living, interest rates, and exchange rates. It could be a measurement issue, but the established relationships between inflation and interest rates, inflation and exchange rates, somehow mysteriously have gone missing for now. Let's look at the relationship between inflation and the cost of living. Mr. Chairman, we do not seek to achieve single-digit inflation just for the sake of beautiful statistics. The statistic must have meaning in people's lives. Unfortunately, most people in Ghana cannot relate to the talk about single-digit inflation when they get to the market. I was in Malata market last week.